here too. Okay? Listen, very few of us are ever going to go through what Coach Joe Kennedy has gone through. And I hope we don't ever have to. I experienced a small version of that when I was in law school and I had to sue the university where I was attending to protect the free speech of the pro-life group I was leading. And we won that lawsuit, but it only lasted about a year and a half. Coach Kennedy's ordeal was almost a decade, almost 10 years of up and down, back and forth in court cases. His life pulled in so many different directions. Because he knew that God tapped him on the shoulder and said, this is what I want you to do. And it started long before that battle came to him. But when it did, he was ready. It should be no surprise that not only was he a successful football coach and one of the most important prayer cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And by the way, when I thought about we're going to have an event in Midland, even though could have been in Odessa, I'm like, what a great culture and place to be that would respect and value football coach than the greater West Texas and Midland and Odessa area. But if you hadn't seen the movie Average Joe about Coach Kennedy, I think it's actually much more important than anything you'll see on the big screen regarding Friday Night Lights. But it should be no surprise that not only did he serve on the football field with his students and in so many ways, he also served our country as a United States Marine. Please welcome Coach Joe Kennedy.
So I'm going to start off by apologizing that my wife is not here because she really didn't want to come to this. But last night she flew home from Washington State. She arrived, I think we got home right after midnight with our grandson, and he stays the summer with us. And so there was too much logistics. I didn't even know if I was even going to make it, but when Jonathan calls, I'm like Riley Gaines, I'm just going to go. I go where I'm called. So, if anybody has not seen the movie or read the book or heard my story before, I'll go through the crash course of that. I was born into a wanted pregnancy, and by the grace of God, that I wasn't terminated at birth because that was on the table. Back in the day, if you're unfaithful and somebody has a child out of wedlock, these are some major struggles that people had to deal with. So they put me up for adoption instead of aborting me. So just that alone ought to tell you that God had a plan for my life, even when I was in the womb. Even though I was a mistake, God could do something incredible with somebody that just shouldn't even be alive. That is just the coolest thing about when I look back on the story. I was adopted into a family that couldn't have kids. They started, they were a good Catholic family, and they're like Mormons, they breed a lot. And I think they had like 6 litters after they adopted me. So it was where they didn't really need me, and I became an angry kid. And I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what to do with my anger. And so I started fighting. And I was a fighter. I was a scrapper. I got kicked out of every single school I went to. I think we counted 11 or 12 different schools that I went to, just getting through high school. That's quite a few. I see some nodding heads at rebellious people and might have gotten in fights. Anybody else ever been expelled in 3rd grade? Okay, so I got expelled in 3rd grade. That's how bad of a kid I was. I was horrible. But I just kept fighting again. I got madder and madder, and I didn't know what to do with that. And so I went to the group homes, I went to the foster homes, I went to boys' homes, and by the grace of God, people planted seeds into into my life, into my head. But you know, I don't know the Bible like stuff, you know, like the doctor does and stuff. But somewhere in there it talks about seeds, and people threw seeds at me, and it just landed down in rocky soil and never took sprout for years. And I didn't like God. I hated God at first. And by the grace of God, I didn't end up like most of my friends, which passed on, were killed, or are currently incarcerated. And instead of that, I didn't want to be defined by my past. So I heard what I thought was my calling, to go into the United States Marine Corps. I hate to say it, I'll admit it, because there is an Army puke here. When I started out in the Army, I was a 19 Delta Armored Scout, and I did that for 2 years. And I was in the reserves, and I tell everybody I grew up and became a Marine. Yeah, I was waiting for him to be right in the middle of the drink. I hope he was going to spit that out there. So I joined the Marine Corps, and I found out something, that I didn't have to be defined by my past. I was not going to be the person that has been kept down, or because of this or because of that. I didn't want to make excuses. I wanted to blaze my own trail, and I wanted to know what I was really made of. So I joined the Marine Corps, and I found out my love and my passion was serving our country. I became something more than myself. It was the biggest honor of my life to serve with some of the best men and women that you could possibly imagine, through peacetime and in war. Now, in peacetime, you see a lot of crazy stuff all over the world. I got to see some of the worst things, even not just in the combat scenes, but the worst places in the world. And the way that America is compared to the rest of the world, we are just a bunch of spoiled babies. We're a bunch of brats. And we're a very bored society, as people can see now, that we're fighting over what is a woman now. I mean, for God's sakes, if you don't know the difference, come and meet me at the table. I got my pen. I'll draw little stick figures for you to explain the difference. You know, coaches are really good at write next nose and kind of stuff, so I can explain the difference between that. But this is how far we've gone as a society. And I was very ignorant to that while I was in the Marine Corps. I spent 20 years in the service, supporting and defending our Constitution. That meant something to me. I was always proud of that, and the little hairs stand up on my neck, even today, every time I say that, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Never once did I think that it was going to be domestic. I got out of the Marine Corps, and I swear probably 60% of the people that I served with were from Texas. And I was like, how terrible is Texas if everybody just wants to get out? Because people from California and Washington and these other places, they don't go and join the service for fun or for you know, they do it to escape, to get out. So I always thought, Texas sucks because everybody is from Texas. You just want to get out. Well, the wonderful thing is I found out, now I know why. It's because Texas is a real state. Texas is America. I never experienced that when I lived in Washington State, when I lived in Oregon and California, and all the other places I've lived in the United States and across the country. There's 2 states, Texas #1 and Oklahoma #2. As far as being red, white, and blue, and the USA, God bless America, you guys are it. So I am an outsider coming in, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you guys do. You have no idea what impact you guys are making. So I go to the Marine Corps. I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. I just thought, you know, that was a wonderful story when people were about to die. You know, oh, they're going to go to heaven just like all dogs go to heaven, right? Yeah, there's something after. But I didn't believe that. I always believed that when we died, there was nothing else, end the story, you know, that's it. Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I met up with my childhood sweetheart, the first girl I ever fell in love with. I fell in love. I like to you say we. I fell in love with her the first moment I saw her. We were 9 years old. I walked up her driveway and she was sitting there playing in the dirt. And when she looked at me with these big brown eyes and brushed her bangs out of her eyes, let me tell you, that was it. That was my soulmate. I was done right there. And the only thing I could blurt out was that I wanted to marry her. And she thought I was pretty creepy for quite a while. But if you fast forward that, she went through so much. You want to hear her story. Her testimony is incredible. Mine pales in comparison. She went through so much abuse and so much stuff in her life. And she's a lover. She's all heart. She is all mother. She is all nurturing. She's got so much love for God. She's been in love with God since she was a little kid because God got her through all that. Me, on the other hand, I was a fighter. I would fight my way through life. And I would fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. The bigger it was, the bigger the battle, the better it was for me because it made me feel tough. Well, with her, she wasn't built for battle. I was. So when we got together, right as I was getting out of the Marine Corps, we got together and it was like, I want her to be my last love. She was my first love. I want her to be my last love. Now, I screwed up 2 other marriages because I was married to the Marine Corps. The country and serving and Marines always came first. Before my wife, before my kids, before anything. And that was a mistake that I will spend the rest of my life trying to rectify. So I have screwed up a lot of stuff from 3rd grade, I think, until today. I mean, I screwed up a lot today. I'm sure I probably yelled at some idiot at the airport today. I mean, let me tell you, it's Dallas-Fort Worth is insane. So, we get together, and she's a good Christian girl. She grew up in the church. I was a atheist, and I don't know if it's probably one of the scriptural books or something about being evenly yoked and stuff like that. Well, we were not. I was fighting desperately, as hard as I could, to hang on to her, to be with her. And with all the abuse that she went through with her ex-husband, and as a child, she had a lot of barriers, and I didn't know how to break those down. The harder I fought to get to her, the farther she pushed back, the more she pushed back on me. And I was at my limit. And one day our kid said, well, if he doesn't have to go to church, why do I gotta go to church? And I was like, oh, kids, hits you right in the heart. So I said, all right, I'll go to church. I sat in church for probably 6 months with my arms crossed, defiant as all get out, mean mugging that pastor because the only thing he wanted was my money. That was it. That was all I heard about church. And then one day we were headed to church, and my wife and I got in this huge fight on the way to church, which is probably in the Bible too, I think. That's a biblical thing, that you fight on the way to church. But we got this huge fight, and she sat, and anybody that's married or been in a relationship, you know when your significant other is upset with you. She gave me where you sit in the what do they call them, pews, instead of sitting right there by each other, holding hands and stuff, she was sitting like this far away, and she had the cold shoulder pointing at me. And I knew that our marriage was failing. I mean, it got to this point, and I was like, I am losing the girl that I am in love with, and I want to spend the rest of my life with. And they started playing this cool music, something about the praise and worship music. It hit my heart, and I got up right in the middle of it, and I started walking towards the altar, and I thought I was having a stroke, and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have control over my body, and I went right up to the front of it, and I kind of took a right because I didn't want to be right in the dead center. See, Marines got a good hold of being tough. But man, I tell you, I fell to my knees, and I cried. I wept. like I had never ever cried before. It's the first time I ever remember crying. And I was like, God, I'm failing at this. And I surrender. And I just heard this preacher at one of the events I was just at this past year. And he said, falling to your knees, being on your knees, is a sign of submission to God. And I didn't know this, you know. But my wife, she saw me submitting to the Lord over our marriage and instantly healed us. She was just getting over, she had a mini stroke, so her brain wasn't working really well. Her emotions were all over the grid, and that played a large part into it, not besides just the stuff she went through, the abuse, but she was dealing with some serious physical and mental things going on at that time too. But it was like instantly we were healed. And our marriage became absolutely perfect. And nobody's marriage is perfect, but that was my ideal of perfect. And I got to sit right over here with my family and my wife in our little protective area, and I said, I want to live the rest of my life just like this. This is where I want to stay. I'm done serving, I'm done fighting, I'm done doing all these other things. I am going to dedicate my life to serving the Lord wherever He calls me, whatever churchy things He's going to have me do. And then, I tell you, God's got this sense of humor, and He said, yeah, how about coaching high school football? So I'm on a run one day, I'm out just PTing and doing all my normal run, and a guy approaches me in his car, and I'm thinking, drive-by, you know, I'm about to get killed, or some dude's gonna creep up on me and try to get me in his van or something. I mean, I didn't know what this guy's doing. And he said, hey, I see your shirt. It said Bremerton. I said, oh yeah, my wife works at Bremerton. She works in the administration office. And he said, he goes, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, running. Dude, why are you talking? I'm on a run. So he pulls up, we talk for about 5 minutes, and he says, something tells me we need a guy like you to coach football. And I was like, the guy's on crack. All right. So I go home, I tell my wife about it, and she said, oh, yeah, that's our athletic director, Smiling George Duarte. And I was like, oh, okay. I swear that guy started stalking me. Every time I turned around, the guy was there. He must have mapped out my run. I thought he had a GPS on me or something. Because I'd be out running, and he'd be driving by, hey, coach, you know. All right, dude, I'm going to get a restraining order against you. And he was bugging my wife, and this went on for well over a year of him just steadfast and determined that I needed to be the coach at Bremerton High School. And so my wife and I prayed about it, we talked about it. I finally agreed to go to an interview. I tell you, it was probably the worst interview you could possibly imagine. I'm sitting in there with the superintendent, the high school football head coach, and another coach, and the athletic director, and some other HR people. And they were like, why do you want to be a coach? And I go, I don't. They said, well, okay, boy, you must have special talent for football. And the head coach steps in and says, okay, so what is it? Are you X's and O's? What are you? Offense, defense, special teams? And I'm like, nope. He goes, what do you mean? I was like, I know nothing about football. I couldn't draw a play. I could draw an X and an O, but we've been playing tic-tac, man. I'm not a football guy. And so the head coach goes, is this, he's looking around for like a hidden camera. Is this some kind of a joke? And so the athletic director was kind of kicked back in his chair, Smiling George. Kicked back in his chair, and he smiles, and everybody's like, I go, I don't know why I'm here. Ask George. And George just leans forward and goes, tell him what you can bring to our program. And I said, well, leadership, discipline, team building, and I will get the most out of these young men that you've ever seen. I will develop this into the best team you've ever seen. And I will take these young people, these young kids, and turn them into better young men. And I tell you, right there, they were like, you got the job. I went home, I said, give me the weekend to think about it. Went home, thought about it, and I tell you, God is so amazing. I was sitting there in the middle of the night flipping through the channels. Anybody seen the movie Facing the Giants? You know, I mean, their budget's what, $47.38? But it was like the hand of God in the middle of the night. There's 1,000 stations on. Nothing is on except for this football movie that I happened to come across. And it was like God reached through the TV set, through the whatever the names are, not the Irwins, it's, what's her name? Kendrick Brothers, thank you. The Kendrick Brothers. Something about them that reached through, grabbed me by my chest, and for the second time, threw me to my knees. And I'm bawling my eyes out. Thank God all my kids are asleep, because I don't think I want them to see me ever cry. So I'm on my knees, and I'm like, God, I hear you. I will serve to the best of my ability, and I will give you the glory after every single game, win or lose. And God was like, done, sealed, delivered, no problem. And I didn't know what I was signing up for. But after every game, I just went out there, the two teams, you know, meet at midfield, they shake hands, they say good game to each other, but they're really saying, screw you. We know what kids say after fighting that long. But right down after we shake hands, I would just stay there after talking with the coaches, and I would take a knee, and I would take 30 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, and thank God. It was so simple. Just take a knee and thank God. And this went on for probably 6 months, and then the team finally noticed. They were like, Coach, what are you doing out there? And I said, I'm just thanking God for what you guys did, and I was part of it. And they asked if they could join. And I said, this is America. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. Are you kidding me? I'm planning the free. Of course you can join me. Like, no big deal. So, we had 3 kids, I think, join me on the first prayer. And after that, it grew and grew. And over the next 8 years, 8 football seasons, this went on. I prayed twice because I'm an assistant coach for the varsity and I'm the head coach for the junior varsity. So I got a home game and an away game every single week. 2 games a week, praying on the 50-yard line for 8 football seasons. And in our 8th football season, somebody from another school district came and saw what we were doing. It was an awesome football game. And they saw what we did. We ended up losing. But it was such a good game. I mean, there was brawls out there. That's how good the game was. You know it was good when the kids are fighting. So, yeah, you know, I'm a coach now. But afterwards, our team went and grabbed their team, and to see all of these kids, you got 100 kids that were just scrapping, cussing each other out, and all sitting there on their knees with their arms wrapped around each other. And we lifted up a helmet from each team and thanking the Lord for that battle that we just went through. And they started realizing what sportsmanship and battle is really about. That when the fight is over, you can stand up, pick your enemy up, drop, brush them off, because you either win or you lose. You gotta be a good winner, you gotta be a good loser. And that's what I was teaching my guys. In our 8th season, somebody saw this, reported it to our principal at our school, and just like you see something, you say something, right? I think it's a tagline for something. So they did, but they said, I want to tell you, what I saw on that football field was amazing. It was awesome. So they started an investigation to find out what was so awesome, and it was no big deal, right? You think, this is a good thing, you just got a compliment, so what are we going to do with it? We'll investigate it. Well, after they investigated, they were like, oh, we got the separation of church and state, we got this, we got that. There's one rule, only one policy in the state of Washington, Oregon, and California. I don't know about the rest of them, but you cannot encourage nor discourage kids of prayer. That's the only policy that our public school system has as far as prayer goes in schools. And so I was like, well, I never invited them, and I don't care if they come out, because there was times We lost by 60 points. You get your butt kicked by 60 points. I tell you, there wasn't one kid out there being thankful. Not a single one would come out there on the 50-yard line and still thank God. But that was my thing, because I was there and God put me there. So, win or lose, I'm doing this. And when they said, you can't invite the kids, I said, well, nobody's ever invited the kids. Go ask the kids. Not a big deal. And they did. And they were like, well, it shouldn't be a problem. But their lawyers got involved. Now, this is the scary thing about the West Coast, especially in Washington State. I can't speak for everybody, but in Washington State, there is one law group that represents all of the public schools in the state of Washington. One. And who are they supported by and are in affiliation with? Separation of Church and State and the Freedom from Religious Foundation. And Jonathan could probably name 150 of them. But there are two groups that are the ones that are backing all decisions made at Washington State. That's a scary thing. So they said, well, and keep in mind, the school district, these people are my friends. These are not my enemies. I've worked with them for almost a decade. I'm in my 8th year. My wife has worked there for 12 years. We do holidays together. We are family. We're a small community. Maybe 30,000 if we have a carrier group up in Washington, one of the Navy carrier groups. That adds another 5,000 people to our community. So it's not a huge community. And I didn't want this fight. And I thought, well, we could figure it out. I'll talk to the superintendent, my buddy Aaron. We talked, and he said, hey, if you just stop praying with the kids, everything should be fine. And I'm like, well, that's unfortunate, but hey, your school, your rules. I don't want to fight with you guys. I just want to coach football, and I want to be with my team. And so I stopped praying with my team from that moment on. And that's where I started walking that really fine line, because they said that you cannot encourage nor can you discourage kids in prayer. So now I'm on that line, and I was talking to somebody earlier about a fence. I was on that fence. Well, I figured out, and I just heard it on one of the podcasts, that Satan owns the fence. I didn't know this until this last week when I saw this. So I'm trying to ride this fence, and I think everything's fine, because I tell my guys, hey, this is my fight, please respect me in this. I'm telling them not to come out without not telling them to come out. So I went and prayed by myself, but the opposing team joined me. Now that was pretty cool, and that caught wind, and we had all the media there, Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, you name it. 3-letter thing, they were there. We had, at my last game, I think we had about 10,000 people at our football game. The most I've ever seen at my football game was like 837 people at any one of our games, even when we were winning state champions. That's how, people from all over the United States came to this game. But they told me that you needed to pick a side. You needed to choose between your faith or your job. Now, I pray nobody in this room, because you guys are in Texas, ever have to face that. Nobody in America should ever have to face a choice between their faith and their job. That is not America. That's not what I signed up for. And I sat down in front of my team, and I told them what the ultimatum was. And I was standing right on that fence, and I was standing on this line. I'm standing right on this fence, and I'm looking at my team, and I'm talking to my football team there on a Thursday, right before the game. And I said, guys, this is going to be my last game, because if I pray, I'm going to be fired from the team, and I won't be with you the rest of the year. And we were having a successful season. This is my 8th year, so this is my second full class that I had from freshmen to seniors. And that's a big thing for kids, is to start them out when they're young like that, and early freshmen, and have 2 left feet, and don't know anything, and to teach them to become these good young men. So this year is a big year for us. And I sat in front of him, and one our team captain stands up, and he says, Coach, I gotta tell you, we talked it over as a team, and we don't want you to grow. And I knew at that second, it was like a lightning bolt in me. I knew at that second that I was going to be the leadership by example. Exactly what Doc said earlier, is that leadership by example is everything. I'm at the precipice right here, I'm on the cliff. Which way am I going to go? Am I going to do the right thing on the right side of things? Am I going to do what's right in the eyes of God and the Constitution? Even if you took God completely out of the picture, the freedom of religion and freedom of speech is our First Amendment. If we lose that, how fast is the second and third? And, I mean, it's domino effect from there. And I've always taught my guys leadership by example. Do as I say, or do as I do, not as I say. Wait, how does that go? But I want to lead these young men. This is my perfect example that no matter what, you do what's right, even if it's not popular, even if it will cost you everything. And this was going to cost me everything. Now, keep in mind that when I did make that choice and I got put on suspension and we started the whole media blitz and was on Fox about every 3 days, Good Morning America a bunch of times. It was on every channel, every station, every day for months. It was a firestorm. And I'm sitting there going, why is this such a big deal? This is a 15-second prayer on a public football field. Really? 15 seconds? This isn't newsworthy. Well, guess what? That's where you guys got involved. It's all your fault. Because we had people in Texas praying and supporting me. I had Jonathan writing amicus briefs, calling me. Me and Jonathan have been from the very beginning. My boys are football players. I play football. We're sports, man. All of Texas is behind you. And I'm like, all right. At least I got one state. This is how bad Washington is. That we had to get First Liberty Institute out of Plano, Texas, to represent us, because nobody in the state of Washington would. Now, we did have Jay Sekulow call, but I thought it was a crank joke, and I didn't know who Jay Sekulow was, so I hung up on him. But, I mean, God works in mysterious ways. So this is how important you are in Texas, that you directly affected the outcome and the journey that I had, and the winning of a United States Supreme Court case that overturned 50 years of precedent of religious freedoms in America. There's been, what, like 8,000 cases? 8,000 cases have been lost because of this stupid, we know Roe versus Wade. I could probably name 3 Supreme Court cases out of all of them that have ever happened. Roe versus Wade was one of them. But the one that ours went up against was Lemon. Lemon versus Kurtzman, and I didn't know what Lemon was. I was like, man, that's what, you put that on the top of your Corona at the end of the day, right? I mean, Lemon, what is this? But that was the Roe versus Wade for religious freedom. And it stood for 50 years, and 8,000 cases have been lost in religious freedom because of this stupid Lemon case. So not only did we just win the rights of a coach, just one dude who wanted to pray on a football field and thank God after a game and exercise his rights as an American, but this affected the entire nation. And that is because of your guys' prayers, your guys' support. I don't know how many events I've been to. I think me and Riley are probably close to tied for doing stuff with Texas Values. I will stand with Texas Values and everybody in this room to the day that I die. I have some blessings and some angels here in Texas. There's a young couple in the back, the Travelsteads. It's their first time at one of these, right? Their parents have been our guardian angels, Denise and I's guardian angels, from the very beginning. So for the past, since 2015, that's a decade, we've been friends, They've been mentors. So you guys are not strangers. All the way to my guy with the mustache where his always a smiling face, always an open arm, always a blessing to come to Texas. And this is why it is so important for you guys to fight the fights that you do. And to bring in people. Chris, their mom, and Dwayne, I was talking to their mom, and Chris said, my kids are up at Midland. I'll give them a call and have them show up at the event. And I'm like, see, that's what you do. You care enough to talk to your kids and get your kids involved. You get your family, your neighbors, your schools, your churches. Our churches are a freaking mess. Okay, is there any preachers in here? Well, that's good. I might have said a cuss word right there. But everybody is so afraid to stand up for the truth and for what is right. And by God, we are Americans. Our brothers, sisters, fathers, grandfathers, relatives, all the way through the ages have died to defend this country. And it is the greatest in the world. And if you want to know how great Texas is, go spend a weekend in Seattle, Oregon, or California. Go have a reality check. But those happen. Washington State was made by lumberjacks. How the West was won. The toughest SOBs in the world crossed the continental divide to conquer the West. What happened to those people? They're all tree hugging people. We know what they're there. You know, they don't even know what they are now. I mean, they can't tell if they're a guy or a girl, for God's sakes. This is what we've gone to because we became apathetic and we sit on our asses and we expect when times are good, we can do everything's fine. Hey, we elected Trump, cool, we don't have to do anything else. Hey, we just got these 5 bills or whatever it was just passed. We don't have to do anything else. And that is where the devil wins every time. Because we go right out to the fence and we are comfortable. We think we're sitting on God's side of the fence. Hey, we're facing God. But guess what? We're still on the fence. This is when we have to fight. This is when we have to show what we're made of. God made people in in His image that some of them are like the guys in, what is it, David in his, Brian in his Mighty Men? What is it? The Mighty Men in the Bible? Yes. David, yeah, not Brian. David. And Goliath. These guys, these are warriors. And people sitting here today, little do you know, you are the warriors. You are why things are happening. And this is the greatest thing. When Jonathan called and I was like, I don't care if my wife or my kid, my grandkid just got there, I am there. This is how much I believe in what you guys do and how much I support you. Because I get to look each one of you in the eye and tell you thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. We would not have won if it wasn't for Texas. I would have been ran the hell over in a second. Our law, our court cost for the 8 years we were in litigation was $6.98 million. Now, that might be a drop in the bucket for, some people. But let me tell you, a high school football coach in Washington that makes, I think it was $1,700 a year, which equates to 7 cents an hour. $6.8 or $98 million is insane. But when you come to events like this and you do these events and you support people that are like Jonathan and his team, who I consider friends. We're all friends here. Look at it, we're all thumbs up. Because we spend time together. We talk at least once every week, or we send stupid things to each other. We tell each other about our families and the last football game that our kid played in. I mean, you guys, our family, we go through tragedies together, and the things that our families go through, but we're together in this. So when you come to events like this, don't take it lightly. Take it for somebody who was an outsider from Washington State, on the left coast that things are so bad and so dark out there that it is starting to penetrate little pieces of Texas. It's like a little disease, a blue blip pops up in Austin. Where does it pop up next? We have to squash those. That is up to us to do. It happened on our watch where all this crap has happened. Over the past 50 years, they took religious freedom away from us. They took school choicing. You think about everything. Think about all the way in our lifetime of all the crap that we've seen. But that happened on our watch because that didn't affect us. That had nothing to do with me. That was them. Well, guess what? It is us now. And we are on that fence. We are the defining line. You cannot go past this anymore. So when Doc was saying of giving your time, how about Doc? 3 things that you got?
Time, talent, treasure.
Time, talent, and treasure. I don't have any treasure, so sorry. I can't help you there, guys. I got a little bit of talent, not much. But the time that I have, I will give to each and every single one of you. Every event I go to, I get re-invited to attend one of the churches, to come speak at one of their family gatherings. We meet and have lunch together. We're in battle together. We are all family. And I'm praying, I want you to keep this in your prayer. When my wife's dad finally passes, that's why we're in Pensacola, Florida. When he finally passes, my prayer is that we get to move to Texas, and I want to buy a ranch out by Tyler, if anybody knows where Tyler, Texas is. So, that is my prayer, because that's how much I love and believe in Texas. I mean, you see the Pledge of Allegiance to Texas. It gives me the chill. I can't even begin to tell you. So when you guys have stuff, use that stuff. Your time, your talents, and treasures. And when you have events like this, man, you cannot give it enough. I'm not the guy to tell you to give money because I don't want a nickel from anybody here. But your money pays for things like me. This is what you guys have paid for. A victory at the Supreme Court. For the right of some knucklehead coach that nobody knows up in the state of Washington. Nobody's ever heard of me. Nobody's heard of Bremerton. Nobody cares about that. And nobody cares about a 15-second prayer on a football field. But you guys did. That is the most impressive thing. So when you give, thank you, because I am the receiving end of that. And that's why I come to these events. It isn't to really tell my story, it's to tell the story about what you guys have done so far. And the blessings you have given one idiot. And if God could do something like that in my life, imagine what He could do in each and every one of yours. I have a Bible verse and on my arm because I don't know the Bible really well at all. And I can never remember those. So it's 2 Timothy 4:7. Fight the good fight, finish the race, and remain faithful. Nowhere in there does it say anything about winning. Nowhere. Look it up. But here's a spoiler. God's already got the victory. We just need to show up. When I die, no matter what I did on this earth, I want God to go, forget about the Supreme Court and all this other stuff that really doesn't matter. I want Him to say, you did a pretty good, kid. You fought the good fight, you finished the race, and you remained faithful. And that's what I pray for everyone. Thank you guys. God bless.
Thank you, Coach Kennedy. A lot of times, you have significant landmark court case decisions, and that should be enough. But what we have found is, unless you put it in state law, you will have bureaucrats all over the place that will say, I don't know what that Supreme Court meant, and it's confusing, blah, blah. You have organizations like TAS, Texas Association of School Boards, that are like the entity you talked about in Washington, that will give a literal view of what's going to the overwhelming majority of our 1,200 school districts in Texas. And they'll say, well, man, we're not really sure that that's what the court said, and we think they're going a different direction later. So that's why we take a court case like Coach Kennedy's and put it into state law like we did in Senate Bill 11, so no one ever has to go through. And so this is the gift that keeps on giving. It's not just Coach's case that wins, it makes sure no one else has to. Or if someone does challenge them, they can say, state, not only the Supreme Court, but our Texas state law says this. What does that also mean? That means our Attorney General, like Ken Paxton, and the lawyers in the governor's office can say, I got your back too, local school district, because I'm here to help defend exactly what the state law is. But you know what? I'm going to say this one last thing about Coach Kennedy. He didn't know when he said, I'm not going to let my prayer be taken away. When he made the decision, I'm just going to be faithful to God. He did not know somebody was going to come to his aid, that he was eventually going to win at the Supreme Court. To your point, that victory is never guaranteed. We walk with people like Coach Kennedy all the time who stand in the middle of these battles, who take that first step, not knowing if their life is going to be completely destroyed. And oftentimes it gets to that point. Okay? And so when we brought Coach Kennedy to the Texas Capitol, it's inspiring because people are like, wow, he stood and was faithful before he ever knew if there was a victory. But they also know they may not have the courage to do that. Right? We're not all built a Marine like Coach Kennedy. We're not all, as a member of my team said as we were driving, maybe a little bit crazy sometimes to do this work and say, come what may, I'm standing with God on this. And I appreciate, Coach, you mentioned something about my son because as his case was wrapping up, my oldest son was finishing up his high school football career. You don't have to be in Texas or you can be in Midland and Odessa to appreciate what it's like to see your child, and even in high school, go through football. But that's their life, right? And I gave my son Coach Kennedy's book, and I said, man, I wish you would have a coach like Coach Kennedy. And my son did have some good coaches. Think about school choice. All these things we work on creates a culture, an opportunity, an environment to have God-fearing people that are in leadership positions. And maybe they have an influence on your kid, or maybe they have an influence on that kid that lives down the street that makes your street, your community better, because we need God-fearing Christian leaders like Coach Kennedy's and others that they are going to stand firm on the Word of God. And trust me, this is what our generation, our time needs people to be inspired that, and that will lead our country and our state in a wonderful direction. So, love you, brother. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give another round of applause for Coach Kennedy. I'm going to invite Lisa to come up and tell you why all the stuff we talked about, the different work, the opportunities we have, and how we have a $2 million budget, and we'd love to have your financial support.
A little subliminal message there. What an amazing night, right? I mean, my heart is so full. If you're here tonight, your presence here tonight, it's a powerful reminder of your dedication for faith, family, and freedom. You are giving your time. A lot of you have given your treasure, and we are so grateful for that. And we don't take that for granted at all. We are a skeletal crew. We all wear a lot of hats, and you've heard it a lot that we all have to link arms, as Dr. Johnson said, and I always said it in my prayers. And we have linked arms with all of you. And we're just in Conroe, we've just been all over the place. And I was telling Dr. Johnson, everybody that And so what you give tonight is doubled. And I mean, that allows us to bring another, policy team member on. That allows us to, pay for our 10 Commandments project that we have, that, they're looking to our team to really help promote and lead. So we just have a lot of exciting projects in front of us and exciting goals in front of us. And so you have these in your folders. So please, will everyone, please, leave with the folder tonight, because in it are all of our victories. And there's a sheet in here that just talks about all of our bills and victories. Talks a little bit about Texas Values University, but this is in there, okay? You can fill this out tonight. You can scan the QR code in the magazine that's on your table. You can hand these to me as you're leaving. I will be at the door as you're leaving. And just anything you can give is a gift, and we greatly appreciate you. And I just want to thank Susan and Ben for driving all the way from Fulville, outside of Dallas, to be here. This is kind of their old stomping ground, and just what a great night. And
Well, I think we did give away a couple of signed footballs, but 2 of our sponsors, we're going to have Coach Joe Kennedy come up and sign one of his commemorative footballs for Sherry Hurt and her family. Take as a nice memento, and also the Russell family. Coach Kennedy, if you'll come up and sign these for them.
Keep talking.
I want to say something real quick. I grew up with Chris Osborne, Traviston, she's Osborne in my hometown, and I looked at her little sister was in my class in high school. And it was so wonderful to meet their children. We never met them. When we moved out to West Texas, we were first in Odessa, and when they both, Dwayne and Chris worked for Animal Fellows over my husband. And so we got together way back 1980, 81.
And we have to watch the movie Average Joe that is streaming on Amazon Prime, because the Travel State helped fund that in a big way. So you guys definitely got it. It's a good movie. So thank you guys.
I can close this up. Well, I really appreciate everybody being here. I bet,
Sherry, will you go up and y'all go up and get the football from Coach when he signs it?
okay. Anyway, everybody probably is going away with some kind of tidbit tonight that you can remember to share with somebody else, that would inspire somebody else to stand up for the Lord, to stand up for their Christian values in any way they can, because it's a tough world out there, and we need to have each other's back, just like they said. So thank you so much, Doctor, for giving your good words.
I'll close this out in prayer. As I do, I want us to keep the Solari family in your prayers. I know some of the family members are here, and many of y'all may know Mark and Terry, but Mark had just a terrible skiing accident a couple months ago. He is doing better. They would probably have been at this event. He's on the mend, but that could be a really tough road. And so I'll let you get the football from Coach Joe there. But let's stand together as we close out in prayer, if y'all don't mind. Joe, heard Joe come up. And accept the football too, when Coach finishes signing Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for being in this room tonight, for so many wonderful leaders that are a part of this event, that in their different ways are so valuable to their family, to their communities, to our state, and to our shared Christian faith. We know that you can do so many wonderful things where 2 or more are gathered in your name, and that's what we're doing here tonight. And we're thankful for over the years the many friends that you multiplied and that have been a part of our work and have been inspired, but also themselves have found their own ways to be set that has such a powerful impact on their own individual lives and the examples they set for their family and friends and community. And so, as we leave here, Lord, we just ask you to keep us safe, but also keep the Solari family just to be with them, Lord, and give them comfort and give Mark comfort and their family, and just continue to lead them in the direction of healing, and let them know that even though they're not here tonight, that we're thinking about them, we love them, and they're such an important part of what we do. And for all of our state leaders, our governor, our lieutenant governor, our president, and everyone that serves in an elected office, we are one